All right, y'all. So the first section we'll do is 7.5. And like I said, this is analyzing graphs of quadratic functions. All right, y'all. So remember, quadratic functions are of this form, in which we got those x squared terms, okay? So 2 is the highest exponent on them. That makes this a quadratic. All right, y'all. So I'm going to draw the shape of these graphs. So they're going to make a parabola. That's that U-shaped graph. Now, there's certain things about this parabola we're going to look at today. The first thing is you got a minimum, or if the graph is flipped over, you would have a maximum. So this is what we call the vertex. So the vertex is the minimum or maximum point of a parabola. So that's the minimum or maximum point of a parabola. Okay, so this will tell me the lowest y value if it's a minimum or the highest y value if it's a maximum. Also, this vertex here, the vertex is the point. If you drew an imaginary line through it, through that vertex, it would cut that graph in half. So this is called the axis of symmetry. So the axis of symmetry, and it comes in the form of x equals um, some number. So the x coordinate of the vertex here gives me this imaginary line that cuts my parabola in half. Now the y value of this parabola, um, the y value of the vertex is the minimum or maximum value. Okay, so you got your vertex. It'll have an x and a y coordinate. The x coordinate is the equation you can get to form the axis of symmetry, which cuts the parabola in half. The y value of that vertex gives you the minimum or maximum value of the parabola. So we got a formula we use to find this vertex. So the vertex formula is going to look like an ordered pair since that's a point. So the vertex formula, to get the x value, you do negative b over 2a. So negative b divided by 2a. So remember, a is in front of the x squared term, b is in front of the x term, and c is the number at the end here. So that's how I'm going to get the x coordinate. Then to get the y coordinate of the vertex, I'm going to find f of negative b over 2a. So what this means is you're going to find the x coordinate by using this formula. Then you're going to take this value, put it into the function, and get your y value. Okay? So you find the x, put it into the function, and you get the y value. Hey, y'all, so I'm going to go back over some things. So the line or axis of symmetry, so what we said here, it was the equal to x equals a. So it comes in the form of x equals a. So really, a is going to be what you get here, your negative b over 2a. Because that's going to give me the x coordinate, and the line of symmetry is x equals whatever that x coordinate is on that, okay? All right, then we had the minimum or maximum value. We said that was equal to the y value of the coordinate. Of our vertex. So the x value gives me the line of symmetry. The y value gives me a min or max value. Now, how do I know if I got a minimum or max value? I look at this a up here in front of the x squared term. Okay. So if the a is positive, then we will have a minimum. If the a is negative, well, remember, if that a is negative, it's going to flip that parabola over and make that a maximum. Okay, so just looking at that a coordinate tells me whether I got a minimum or a maximum value, okay? So y'all hang on just a second. Let me pull MathLab up for this section because they got a question number 1 here. So now let me make this a little bigger here. So this one, they're actually giving you a picture of a parabola, and they're giving you the vertex point that's what, 3 comma 2 down there. So the first thing is on this question, they want to know what the vertex is. Well, they want you to punch in that ordered pair. So that'd be what, parentheses, 3 comma 2 close parentheses. So they're just getting you used to this terminology. So that's the vertex. That's the minimum point of that parabola. They want to know the axis of symmetry. Now remember, that's got to be x equals. Okay, so you got to type it as an equation like it's saying. So remember, that's going to be x equals 3 because 3 is the x value of that parabola, and that's the line that would cut that in half, a vertical line at x equals 3. Okay, so remember the x coordinate gives you the line of symmetry. Then they're going to want to know what is the minimum or maximum value of the function. So we said that was equal to the y value. So they're giving me the y value of 2. So in the box, you would put a 2 on that one. Now, the minimum or maximum does not have an equation. You're just putting the value. Okay? So that would be 2, and then you'd be done with that. Okay? So that first one, they gave you a picture of the graph and just wanted you to find the stuff on it. Hey, also, we're going to actually play these by hand. So this one says find the vertex, find the axis of symmetry, determine if there's a minimum or maximum, so determine if there's a maximum or minimum value, find that value, then want me to graph the function. All right, y'all, so let me see what my question is going to be. All right, so they're giving me f of x equals x squared minus 12x plus 32. All right, so the trick on these is to get all of our values and then go into MATLAB and try to graph it, okay? Because the vertex, getting that vertex is going to give you a lot of the other answers on this. And y'all remember, here's my vertex formula. Negative b over 2a, f of negative b over 2a. So for the vertex, that was part A. First thing I'm going to find is the x value. I'll get my x value, then my y value. So here's my x value. I'm going to do negative b over 2a. So we first got to figure out what our values are. So y'all, once again, there's not a number in front of the x squared. So what would a be for us? So it's going to be 1 again. And then what do we got for b? Looks like what, a negative 12. And then c is going to be 32. So you find the numbers just like you did on that quadratic formula, a, b, and c. All right, so for the x, we need negative b over 2a. Now remember, this negative is in the formula, so you got to write that negative and then put b in. So my b is a negative 12. Then that's 2 over the a, which is 1. So this negative in the formula, once again, it's only going to change the sign of whatever this b is here. So since that b is negative, that negative times that negative is going to make that a positive 12. 2 times 1 gives us 2 on the bottom. And 12 divided by 2 gives me 6. So for my vertex, I know the x-coordinate is now going to be 6. So then we come in and get the y value. Well, that was f of negative b over 2a. So for us, that's going to be f of 6. So f of 6, I'm going to put a 6 in for those two x's and see what I get. So I'm going to get 6 squared minus 12 times 6 plus 32. All right, we go through. 6 squared is 36. Minus 12 times 6 is 72. And then it's got a plus 32. All right, y'all, so going through here, 36 minus 72 is a negative 36. Negative 36 plus 32 gives us what, a negative 4. So the y value is negative 4. All right, so that's my vertex. They want the axis of symmetry. So since I know the vertex now, I know what the axis of symmetry will be. That's going to be x equals the x value of the vertex, which is 6. Y'all, you got to put that in as an equation, okay? All right, so now, do we have a minimum or do we have a maximum? Well, we said we looked at A for that. A is a positive 1. Since A is a positive 1, I know that this parabola is going to look like that, and it's going to have a minimum value. So you would circle or check the minimum. You're going to have a minimum value, and then they want to know what is the minimum value. Well, we said the minimum value or the maximum value was equal to the y value of this vertex. So I got a minimum value, and it will be -4. All right, then they want me to graph it. Now, when we're graphing it, the first point you gotta graph is that vertex you found. So that 6, -4 must be the first point. Now, you can use any method you want to get the second point. So usually I just graph it in y equals and get my second point, okay? So y'all, let's go to MathLab and just sort of start putting some of this in and see what they want here. So we know our vertex. Remember now, you got to put that in parentheses. And we had what, a 6, comma, -4, close parentheses. So you're going to put that in, check your answer. It wants an equation for the axis of symmetry. We always said that was x equals 6 because that was our x value. So you're going to check that. We said since the x squared term was positive, we said we had a minimum. So here we got to go to B and check B for minimum. And that thing had a minimum value of -4, we said. So you're going to put that in. So you're only going to choose A or B on that part, okay? Then it wants me to graph it. So I'm going to click it. We're going to grab, look here, it's a 2-point vertical parabola tool. So click that. Now up there in the yellow, it says plot the vertex of your parabola. Well, y'all, that's going to be the 6. Go right 6. And then down -4. All right, so there is 6, -4. I'm going to click that. Then it says plot a point on your parabola. So I got to put another point. So y'all, let me show you. On that one, you can find a second point ever how you want to. For me, the easiest way is to just go graph it. So this was x squared minus 12x plus 32. So let's look at what the graph will look like when we're done. So it's going to be off on the right side a little bit. Y'all, I'm going to zoom my graph back to a regular graph. So I'm going to do zoom 6 for standard graph and go back to a 10 by 10. All right, so it's off on the right side a little bit. So I want another point. I'm going to hit second graph to get my table. And down here's my vertex at 6, -4. So I could do 7, -3. I could do 4, 0, 8, 0. Any of them points. We all 4, 0 looks easy. So I'm going to use 4, 0 as my second point on this. So I'm going to go to 4, 0, which is right on the x-axis there. So at 4, 0, I'm just going to click it and then save it. So at that point, you would check your answer and move on, okay? All right, also let me write this one down. F of x equals 2x squared plus 14x plus 20. And same thing, vertex, axis of symmetry, max or minimum, and the value, and then graph it, okay? All right, so here we go. A is 2 on this one. B is 14. C is a positive 20. And y'all want to write my vertex formula again. Negative B over 2A, F of negative B over 2A. All right, so let's get the vertex first. And once again, I'll start with the x value. That was going to be the negative b over 2a. All right, so I got my negative. Then I'm going to put in b. This time is a positive 14. And then on bottom, I got 2 times a, which is 2. Oh, y'all, this one looks like it's going to end up as a fraction, don't it? Because look, I got a negative 14 on top, 4 on the bottom. So that's going to be a negative. So y'all, let's just simplify that fraction. Um, 14 and 4 will both divide by 2. So I'm going to divide the top by 2. That's going to give me a negative 7. And then divide the bottom by 2. 4 divided by 2 gives me a 2. Nothing else I can do to that. So on my vertex, the x value will be a negative 7 halves. So now let's get the y value. That's going to be f of a negative 7 halves. All right, y'all. So I got 2 times x squared, which is a negative 7 halves, being squared, plus 14 times x, which is a negative 7 halves. And then at the end is a plus 20. So if you're doing this thing by hand, your first step is this exponent here. So bring down that 2. So you got a negative 7 halves being squared. So you got to square the top and square the bottom. So negative 7 times negative 7 gives you a 49. On bottom, 2 times 2 is 4. All right, then I'm just bringing everything else down. All right, so now you're going to go through and sort of do some multiplying. So these whole numbers, you can put a 1 under them, and we're going to multiply straight across. Now, on this one, that 2 and 4 will reduce. So 2 and 4, that turns into a 1 and a 2. Okay? So I just reduce numbers before I multiply a lot of times. So you get a 49 over 1 times 2, which is 2. Now, if you multiplied and got a 98 over 4, 98 over 4 is the same as the 49 over 2, okay? All right, y'all, then let's see what we got here. Here, you got a fraction. So 14 times negative 7. So that one's going to be negative. 14 times 7 is 98 over 1 times 2, which is 2. All right, y'all. Then at the end, bring down your 20. So look here, I got a 49 over 2, a 98 over 2, and then the 20 technically is over a 1. But if I'm going to add all these together, they need a common denominator. So you got a 2 here, a 2 here, and a 1. We need to turn this 1 into a 2 so that they all match. So I'm going to multiply that 1 by 2, which means you got to multiply the top by 2 also, okay? So y'all, I got my 49 over 2 minus my 98 over 2 plus 20 times 2 gives me a 40 over 2. So now, since I got a common denominator of 2 on the bottom, we can come in and figure out what the top is. We got 49 minus 98, which is a negative 49. And then negative 49 plus 40 times what you got? Negative 9. Perfect. So I get a negative 9 halves. So that would be our x value and our y value. So they wanted the axis of symmetry next. And that's going to be x equals the x value, which is negative 7 halves. Minimum or maximum? I'm looking at A again. A is positive, y'all. So since A is positive, this graph is going to look like a U-shaped parabola, which means we will have a minimum value on it. And y'all, the minimum value is equal to the Y value, which is negative 9 halves. At that point, they're going to want us to graph it. So y'all, let's go put this in and see what we got to do to graph this. All right, so first let me put in my vertex, which was what, a negative 7 halves, comma, negative 9 halves. All right, so you put that in. It's going to make you check as you go through. The axis of symmetry is x equals negative 7 halves. What did we say? We said we had a minimum, so we would click A. So see, it's a little different. A while ago, you put in the value. When you clicked it, this one, you say it's got a minimum or maximum first. Then you put in the value, which was what, negative 9 halves. So they're doing the same things. It's just sort of the order it does them is a little different. All right, then we're going to graph it. Now remember, the first point I got to plot is that vertex. So you see these graphs are separated in halves. So if you want to, figure out what a decimal value of negative 7 halves is. Negative 7 halves would be negative 3.5. So I could go left to negative 3.5. And then negative 9 halves is equal to a negative 4.5. So let me go to negative 3.5 and then down to negative 4.5. And I'm looking at that little yellow band when I watch my points, okay? So I'm at negative 3.5, negative 4.5. I'm going to click that. Now remember, I need another point. So what I'm going to do is go to my calculator, clear out my y equals, and let me put that in. 2x squared plus 14x plus 20. So there's my equation. If you want to see the graph real quick, it's going to go left and down a little bit, it looks like. But y'all, I just want another point, so I'm going to hit second graph for the table. So where was I? About negative side. So anything on this side, um, you can do -4, -4, -3, -4, -2. 0 is easy. So I'm going to do -2, 0. So let me go to Math Lab. My second point was at -2, 0. And I'm going to click that. So y'all, there's my parabola to the left side, a little bit down, just like that picture we just graphed. So I would save that and then check my answer. So do y'all have any questions on these yet? They're not too bad once you get used to your formula there. All right, y'all, hear about this. F of x is a negative x squared minus 10x minus 32. All right, y'all, so I got that written down. All right, y'all, and I'm going to write the formula here, negative b over 2a, f of negative b over 2a. All right, y'all, so give me a. So good job. A is the negative one this time, y'all, because there's a negative in front of that. So A is -1, which means I'm not going to have a minimum this time. I'm going to have a maximum. All right, y'all, B would be the -10. C would be a -32. But y'all, since that's a negative on that, remember, it's going to flip that parabola over, okay? All right, y'all, so the same thing. I'm going to do the vertex. Let me get my x value. Negative b over 2a is a negative times -10 over 2 times a, which is -1. See, all the top becomes positive, but the bottom is going to stay negative. So you're going to have a positive 10 over a -2, which gives me a x value of -5. So I now know the x value, so let's go get our y value. That's going to be f of that -5. Now, y'all, here's where you got to be careful because we're putting it back into this function, but this function has a negative in the front. So bring down that negative. And then for your x, put in a -5, square that, minus 10 times x, which is a -5, minus 32. Now, y'all watch this. The only thing I'm going to do at this moment is that exponent right there. So this negative is coming down. Here, you got a -5 being squared, so that is -5 times -5, which is 25. So if you got a negative in front of an x squared like this, it will stay negative, okay? All right, now I just want to bring everything else down for the moment. So the only thing I did on that step was that -5 squared. Now I'm going to do the multiplying, and there's the only place I'm multiplying. So bring down that -25. Minus 10 times a -5 would be plus 50, and then minus my 32. So -25 and 50 gives you a positive 25. 25 minus 32 gives me what? A -7. So my vertex is a -5, -7. So that means I can now find my axis of symmetry. And that's going to be x equals the x value, which is -5. So that -5 would cut that parabola right in half. Um, then they want a minimum or maximum. Well, we said since A was negative, it flipped it over, and it's going to give us a maximum this time. And the maximum value is the y value of -7. And then y'all, once again, they want to graph it. So the first point I'm going to plot will be -5, -7. Okay. And then let's go to the calculator and get a second point. So I had it negative x squared minus 10x minus 32. All right, so when we're done, our graph should be upside down, like we said, and it looks like it's going left and down, okay? So let me go to second graph to my table. So my vertex was what? -5, -7. So there's my -5, -7. So y'all, I'm going to do the next point by it. I'm going to do a -4, -8 as my second point. Okay. So let me go to Math Lab. So it's going to want everything in here first. So vertex was -5, comma, -7. Axis of symmetry was x equaled -5. We said this time we had a maximum value. And the maximum value was the -7. All right, then we got to graph it. Y'all, I said my first point, remember, the first point had to be the -5 and then down -7. And then my second point, I was doing -4, -8. So let's see, that'll be right there. So see, it flips my graph over, made it a maximum like I needed. So then I just check answer and move on. All right, so y'all got a few true falses coming up. So let's play with these. So y'all, is this true or false? The function f of x equals -7x squared plus 4x plus 3 has a minimum value. Would that be true or false? And remember, we're looking at A on this one. So Olivia, you got a false. So that'd be true. I mean, you're right. You're right. Um, because that is a -7 for A. And remember, negative A flips it over, and you would actually have a maximum. So, y'all, we're just looking at that -7. If it's negative, you got a max. If it's positive, you got a minimum. All right, so that was negative, and they said minimum. So we said that would be false. So what about this one? We did these into section 7.2. You got x minus 6 squared. So the basic graph is the x squared graph, and they're telling you that. So is it true by subtracting 6 from the x, would I actually move right 6 units? Is that true? Or would that be false? So y'all, You remember when we were doing the horizontal transformations, if you subtracted from the x, you went right. If you were adding to the x, you would go left. Well, they're subtracting 6, and they said that would go right 6 units. So that is definitely, Jaya, going to be true. Yeah, I'll tell you the trick on this one. The axis of symmetry on these graphs, you see where it's got that x minus 6 in parentheses being squared? Since that's a negative 6, the axis of symmetry would be a positive 6. If that was like an x plus 6 being squared, then the axis of symmetry would be a negative 6. So the axis of symmetry is where that's moving that graph from. Remember, at the moment, it's in the origin there. But by subtracting 6, it moved it right to a positive 6, which makes this one actually true. So you just got to look at it and figure out, okay, so did they move me right 6 or did they move me left 6 on that, okay? So y'all, that was basically going over some of the stuff we knew from the past. All right, y'all, so let me do one like this. This has, they want me to find the vertex, determine min or maximum value, the range. So there is something new. The range, intervals of increasing and decreasing. Y'all, they don't even look like they want us to graph this one, right? It don't say nothing about graphing it, does it? Intervals of increasing and decreasing, and then be done with it. All right, so they're giving us f of x equals x squared plus 10x plus 21. All right, so let's go play with this one. Now, they did do a little bit new stuff with the range and then the intervals of increasing and decreasing. Um, but we've dealt with them before, so let's see what we'll do. First, we're going to get A, B, and C. So 1, 10, 21. So y'all, let me ask y'all this. On this graph, will I have a maximum point or will I have a minimum point? So I got a minimum. Good job, because that A is positive, and we said positive is going to create a minimum on my graph. So I know I got a minimum, okay? All right, so let's find this vertex, because once I find the vertex, I can answer all these questions. So y'all, on the vertex, we're going to start with the x value first. That is negative b over 2a. So that's going to be a negative times b, which is 10, over 2 times a, which is 1. All right, y'all, so let's say I get what, a negative 10 over 2, which will give me a negative 5. So I know the x value now, so let's get our y value. That'll be f of negative 5. So that's going to give me negative 5 squared plus 10 times that negative 5 plus 21. All right, any number squared will become positive. So negative 5 is a positive 25. Here you got 10 and negative 5, which is negative 50, and then plus 21. All right, y'all. So 25 minus 50 is a negative 25. Negative 25 plus 21 is a negative 4. We now have our vertex. So, on the minimum or maximum, we said this one had a minimum. So it's got a minimum, and the minimum value is the y value, which was negative 4. So see, this one didn't even ask nothing about the x value. It didn't say nothing about a line of symmetry, okay? Alrighty, so they want the range. So the range is going to go from your smallest y value to your maximum y values. So y'all, here, this lowest y value is negative 4. So I know the lowest y value is negative 4, and this parabola opens up, so my range is going to want to head upwards. So if negative 4 is the minimum value of the range, what is this range heading off towards? It's headed off towards positive infinity. So for the range, now let's see, they want interval notation. So the smallest value is negative 4, and y'all, it can equal negative 4. So when you do the interval notation and it equals that number, you gotta put a bracket around the number because brackets means it equals that number. And then from negative 4, the range is going upwards towards positive infinity. So here's the thing. If it's a minimum, your range will go from that minimum value to infinity. If this was upside down, then your range would go from negative infinity to that value. Okay, so it'll be a little bit opposite that. All right, y'all. So then they want increasing. Now remember, increasing always uses parentheses and x values. Well, y'all, this point right here, negative 5 is the x value at that vertex. So this is increasing on the right side. So it's going to increase from 5 as I head out towards positive infinity. So that'll go from negative 5 to positive infinity. When you're doing increasing intervals, we don't use brackets. Because that point negative 5, it can't be increasing and decreasing. So the point where they switch over is in parentheses. The only brackets we'll use will be on the range, okay? All right, so decreasing is this left side coming down. Now, no, on the x's, it stops at that negative 5. So from the left side, we say this side going left to right is coming in from negative infinity as I go down the x's and I get to that negative 5. So it'll go from negative infinity to our negative 5. So y'all, that should be what they was wanting. So let's go look. So we would start out with our vertex in parentheses. It was negative 5, comma, negative 4. Um, we said this one had a minimum. Y'all said a minimum. So go to B. And the minimum value was that -4 for the y value. So the range we said was a bracket. So let me find a bracket. And it went from -4, comma, infinity. And infinity always has the parentheses. It wanted increasing. We said that was parentheses, -5, comma, infinity. Close parentheses. It wanted decreasing. And we said that was negative infinity up to or -5. All right, see, this one didn't have to do a graphing on it, okay? All right, y'all, so I'm going to show you one like the last question here. And it's sort of what you would call an application of this formula. Um, so they're giving me a word problem. A toy rocket is shot vertically into air from a launching pad 3 feet above the ground. Has an initial velocity of 100 feet per second. The height in feet of the rocket above the ground at t seconds after launch is given by the function h of t equals. So all you got to worry about is this formula. So h of t is -16 t squared plus 152 t plus 3. So what they want to know, how long would it take the rocket um, to reach maximum height? So how long will it take the rocket to reach maximum height? And then what is the maximum height? Well, y'all, this is a little rocket. As time goes up, the little rocket's going to go up, up, up. It's going to reach a maximum point, and then it's going to start going back down. What we're interested in is that maximum point, which means we're going to use the vertex formula. So on the vertex formula, our x value will be like the time it takes the rocket to reach maximum height. And then the y value will be the height it reaches. Okay, so that's going to be what the x and y coordinates are, time and the height. So see here, you're given the height based on the time, okay? So what we need is A, B, and C so that we can use our vertex formula. So A is going to be -16, B will be 152, and C would be 3. All right, so I'm looking for the time. And remember, time is like the x coordinate, so we're looking at -b over 2a. So that's going to be negative times b, which is 152, over 2 times a, which is -16. All right, y'all, so the top, I get a -152. Bottom, I get a -32. So this one, we just want to sort of do decimal form, and let's see. Yeah, we just got to put it in decimal answer. So I would do 152 negative divided by -32, and that gives me about 4.75. So less than 5 seconds, my little rocket is going to reach its maximum height. So that's how long it took it. So you would put this in, and MATLAB will have the seconds there. Now, for the height will be f of 4.75. Well, for us, it's actually going to be h, right? H of 4.75, because that's what my formula is giving me. All right, so I would take negative 16 times 4.75 squared plus 152 times 4.75 plus 3. So y'all, there's so many decimals, I'm just going to punch that on my calculator real quick. So let me quit the graphing. So we had negative 16 times 4.75, close parentheses and square that, plus 152 times parentheses 4.75. And then at the end was a plus 3. All right, y'all, let's see how high this little rocket went. And when I hit enter, I get 364, and that's going to be in feet. So we would put in a 364, and then MATLAB already has the feet there for you. So y'all, that was 7.5 dealing with the vertex. All right, y'all, so we got a little section coming up. So 5.4 deals with complex rational expressions. But y'all, I'll tell you, we're only worried about what we call the difference quotient. So I'll explain it a little bit. But if you're going into business calculus or calculus, you'll see this formula quite a bit. It's a fancy slope formula in a way. But y'all, the difference quotient is f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. So this would be like your y2 minus y1, and then h is like your x2 minus the x1. Um, but this one works with curvy lines, straight lines, all that fun stuff, okay? So when you're using this formula, the first thing you're going to do is find what f of x plus h is. So first, we find f of x plus h. Second, I'm going to plug everything into the formula because they're going to give me f of x, and the bottom is always h. So I'm going to find f of x plus h, put that in, put my f of x they gave me in, and divide by h. So then I plug everything into the formula. Then it's just a matter of simplifying. So the third thing I'll do, I'll plug everything in the formula. I'm going to distribute the subtraction and combine like terms on top. So distribute, subtraction, and combine like terms on top. And then last, simplify by dividing each term on top by the h on bottom. So every single part on top, I'll take one h away and be in my most simplified form, okay? And also a couple of these and then we should be ready, all right? So remember, I'm going to find f of x plus h. That'll give me f of x plus h to plug in. They already gave me f of x to plug in, and it's on h on the bottom. Once I've done that, then it's just a matter of start simplifying. So they will say, construct and simplify the difference quotient. So y'all, in this class, we're only worried about you being able to plug it in and solve it. Once y'all get into calculus, they're going to explain everything about it, how it's used to find slope and all that fun stuff, okay? All right, y'all, so for my first one, f of x equals 8x minus 5. All right, so the first thing I said, now remember, here's our formula. So I got to find f of x plus h because here's f of x. I know what to plug in there. So I got to find this f of x plus h. And that's going to equal this function. And in place of the x, we're going to put an x plus h. So that's going to be 8 times x plus h and then minus 5. So now we got 8 x plus h minus 5. To get rid of parentheses, distribute the 8. So 8 times x is 8x. 8 times h is 8h. And then at the end is a minus 5. All right, so let's see. We cannot do anything else to that. There's no more like terms or anything. So this expression is now f of x plus h. So y'all, that's what we mean when we say find f of x plus h. You're just replacing that x with an x plus h, okay? All right, so now let's plug everything into the formula. F of x plus h is 8x plus 8h minus 5. We're subtracting f of x. Now, I start out by putting these in parentheses, okay? So you're going to be subtracting the 8x minus 5. That's all over h. All right, so next we want to distribute that subtraction. So bring out the first parentheses, 8x plus 8h minus 5. Distributing negative times a positive makes that a negative 8x. Negative times a negative makes that a positive 5 all over h. Now, what you should notice is that everything that was in the second parentheses is going to cancel now with what was in the first parentheses. The only things that'll be left are going to have h's in them, okay? So you see this 8x and that negative 8x? They cancel. This negative 5 and that positive 5, they cancel. So all that's left on top is an 8h. On bottom is an h. And y'all guess what? Don't them h's now cancel? Giving me a final answer of 8. Well, y'all, that's a straight line. And if you remember a straight line, the slope, that's always the number in front of the x. So since this is a fancy slope formula and that's a straight line, look here, the slope was indeed 8. Now, y'all, that ain't going to work on the curvy lines, but on a straight line, it will work. Because that's that y equals mx plus b stuff, okay? And y'all, so that's going to be my trick is finding the f of x plus h. So y'all, for the second one, they're giving me f of x equals x squared minus 1. So here's our formula. F of x plus h minus f of x all over h. All right, y'all, so let's find f of x plus h. That's going to equal x squared. Well, x squared is going to be x plus h squared. And then I got a minus 1. Now, y'all, what I get on my side work is going to be the same thing y'all get on this. Because the only difference on this problem is like the minus 1, minus 2. They might put a plus 1, plus 2 or something. But the x plus h squared will be the same as mine. So x plus h squared is x plus h times x plus h. All right, y'all. X times x is x squared. X times h is a hx. I'm just keeping mine in alphabetical order. And then you got this h times x. Well, that's another hx. Then at the end, I got a h times a h, which is a h squared. So before I put it over here, I'm going to add the like terms. So I got my x squared. 1 plus 1 is 2hx. And at the end, h squared. So y'all save that. Anytime you get an x plus h squared, we're going to replace it with that. So this is going to give me x squared plus 2hx plus h squared minus 1. All right, so that is now this. I now know what f of x plus h is. So y'all, I'm going to put them in my formula. F of x plus h minus f of x, which is a x squared minus 1, all of that over h. All right, so we said we got to distribute the subtraction and then start adding like terms. So bring down the first parentheses. All right, negative times positive makes that a negative x squared. Negative times a negative makes that a positive 1. All right, so we said everything that came out of the second parentheses is going to cancel. So the x squared cancels with the negative x squared. The negative 1 cancels with the positive 1. Everything that's left has to have an h in it. All right, y'all, so let me see what I got. I got a 2hx plus h squared all divided by h. All right, I said divide every term on top by h. So this is going to be like this. So this is really being done like this. This h applies to both of those. So on the first one, if you cancel the h's are gone and all that's left is a 2x. On the second one, so remember, these are like h to the first. If they don't have an exponent, it's like a 1. But when you're dividing, you subtract the exponents, and 2 minus 1 leaves me 1h, which is just plus h. So you took 1h out of that one. You took one of these two h's out and left you with 1. And the h on bottom is gone because you're dividing it out. So y'all, this would be your final answer. So y'all, these are a little more tricky, but just remember, everything in the second parentheses will cancel every time. All that's left will be the stuff with the h's. So if you can figure out f of x plus h, cancel the stuff that don't have h's, and then divide that part by the h, it eliminates a lot of work as long as you realize what you're doing in those, okay? All right, y'all, so there was one more of those. So this one is f of x equals 10x squared plus 10x plus 8. So y'all, this is our last one, so I'm not going to do a break. We'll just knock this out and be done. All right, so there's my f of x. So here's my formula again. So that means I got to find f of x plus h. So that's going to be 10 times x, which is x plus h squared, plus 10 times x plus h, and then plus 8. So everywhere there's an x, we got to put in our x plus h. Now, y'all, the first thing I'm going to do is this right here. And we know what x plus h squared is because we figured that out on the last problem. That was an x squared plus 2hx plus h squared. All right, I'm just bringing everything else down. On that move, I just wanted to square the x plus h and get that. Now I will distribute 10 here. I'll distribute this 10 here and then bring down my 8. So I'm going to get a 10x squared plus 10 times 2 is 20hx plus 10h squared. Then I'll distribute that 10 and get a 10x plus 10h. And at the end is a plus 8. So you're looking through here and guess what? There's no like terms. So this whole thing is f of x plus h. So let's start plugging it in. 10x squared plus 20hx plus 10h squared plus 10x plus 10h plus 8. All that minus f of x is right here. 10x squared plus 10x plus 8. And y'all, all of that over h. Now, while ago I did all that distributing, I just wanted to show y'all that every time this was going to cancel with this. So let's just cancel it out right here. This is a negative 10x squared. It's canceling with that positive 10x squared. This is a negative 10x. It's going to cancel with the positive 10x. This is a negative 8. It's going to cancel with a positive 8. So see, everything here will always cancel. So y'all, I got three things left that have h's. I got a 20hx plus a 10h squared plus a 10h all over h. So y'all, here's the question. Simplify that and tell me what my final answer would be. So you got a 20hx plus a 10h squared plus 10h all divided by that h. That way I can see if y'all are sort of getting y'all simplifying done. All right, so Hamza, you're up there first. So perfect. H's cancel, giving you 20x. Plus what you got in the middle, 10h, because one of them h's is going to cancel. So you got a 10h. And then plus, perfect, y'all, perfect. Because that one h cancels, giving you the 10. All right, so good. Because that part sort of tricks people up a lot is on that simplifying. But y'all, that's it there. Just take away one h from everybody and be done. So y'all, what questions? Do y'all have any questions over this? So today was your vertex formula and your difference quotient. Yeah, so Hamza, that's pretty much h is a common multiple on top. So you factor it out and then cancel it and be done. So good job. Ready, y'all. So give me your questions. So Jalen, none for y'all. All righty, y'all. So here's the thing. Tomorrow that was the last material for test two. So tomorrow we're going to review for test two. Get y'all good on that. And then let's see, Wednesday we'll start test three material. All right, y'all. So let me make sure I got all of y'all here. I got Hamza, Jayla, Claudia, Deandra, Olivia, Ben, and Patterson. All righty, so y'all good today? All right, y'all. So if y'all got no questions, I will see y'all tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, and we're going to review test two, okay? Now remember, if you got any questions, just email me, and I'll answer y'all pretty quick through those emails. All right, y'all have a good one. I'll see y'all tomorrow.